Good morning, everyone. Tea time this morning, not coffee time, but I am. I've been procrastinating doing this Kilis video just because I know it's going to be a long one, and I know that I'm going to miss a whole heap of things and maybe not get this all done in the first take. So I'll give it a shot. Because my cousin's been on me a fair bit to actually get it done. So I will start. So Kilis on a whim is kind of what I'm dubbing it. There was no real plan, never really thought about climbing Kilis on this trip or anything like that. And then drove past, so I was going from Lesotho to Arusha. And you actually drive past Moshi, which is the kind of hub for Kilis, Kilimanjaro National Park, and the international airport there. So all the climbing's pretty much, all the expedition companies actually start there. But I'd driven past, so I'd gone through to Arusha, and I was sitting in Arusha at a campsite, and just taking it easy. I was going to end up meeting up with Keith Charters in Arusha that afternoon or whatever it was, and yeah, just sitting there. And then as I say, a guy called Tom Randall, who I met through my brother at the Ranger Run in Gonarozo, in the Savi, was like, listen dude, you're right there, you may as well do it. And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, nah, I kind of want to prepare for it. I want to do it properly. I want to make sure that, there's every chance of success. And he just said, listen, why not? At least you can attempt it. And if you fail, then it is what it is. But I'm sure, you manage the Savi run with minimal training, so you should be able to go and do this. So he sent me an email with the Nosa expedition, which is a company he did it with a couple of mates and stuff like that from Hungary, I believe. And he's like just go and see what it's all about, and if you do it, you do it. By I think about 10 o'clock in the morning, I decided, so this was on Wednesday, and by 10 o'clock that morning I said, okay, well, let's go and do it, let's bite the bullet and go. So I did, signed up. I messaged the guy and said, listen, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to do it. And then he started asking me all the questions. I had no idea of the answers. So how long do you want the expedition to be? What? And I just said, listen, I've got minimal amount of time. So he suggested the 5-day route, and I do have a diary, so that's what I'm kind of looking at. So pretty much that morning, headed back to Moshi. I went and met with the guide. Hamud was my guide. And he kind of explained the expectations, and then also kind of went through, hey, this is the plan, we'll go from XYZ, this is the route, this is our plan, this is our expectation. And yeah, it kind of all fell into place very, very quickly. I kind of asked, what time do we start and all that. And he said, yeah, get to the office about 7:30, and we'll go from there. So I stayed at a local guest house just down the road from them, actually. But sorry, before that, you went through your list of what you need, and I ended up needing like snow pants, climbing poles, thermal socks, and water bottles. Is the kind of 4 things. They suggested that I rent from them, fairly extortionate prices for what it was, but it's either do that or not be able to do it. So ended up pulling the trigger and signed the deal, and kind of went and kind of started gathering my thoughts about, I'm actually going to do this. So then Thursday morning, reported to the office. They kind of go through all your stuff, make sure you have the basics of what they expect, and then pretty much you hand off your bag to one of the porters. So the way it works is for every for at least for me, it was a lead guide, a chef, and then you have 3 porters that carry all the food equipment, cooking equipment, as well as all your stuff. So the stuff that's not in your day pack. So they suggest a backpack with 3 liters of water, snacks, chargers, and all that sort of stuff. All your important stuff that you want to keep with you in your day pack. But your main bag full of gear, that you actually send that up with a porter. So I had MK, or Honest, was my chef. I had Daniel, and I had 2 other guys that helped. And I'll say I've kind of blanked on their names at the moment, but it'll come back to me. Yeah, so literally next morning, woke up, headed over there, plugged in the truck. Luckily they kind of have a Maasai that looks after the office and kind of where I park my truck. So I left the truck there, plugged it in, and yeah, hope for the best. Hoped it was there when I got back. And then from there you go to, I want to say the Marangu track, which is a 5-day track, which is on, I would say, the east side of the mountain, so you climb up eastwards. And it was a 5-day hike, so the first 3 days you do, the first day I think was a 4-hour hike up to Mandara camp, and then from Mandara you go up to Horombe, and Horombe you go to Kibo, and then Kibo you summit, and then come back down to Horombe, and then Horombe you hike all the way out. So 3 days up, summit on the 4th, and then on the 5th you're pretty much walking out of the thing. So the first day, very excited, trying to kind of find my rhythm, find my room. You're walking, and out of the whole thing, everyone kind of said to me, like, listen, just don't underestimate it. So in my head while I was walking, I was like, okay, don't underestimate it, it's going to be tough, it's going to be hard and stuff like that. And the first day is 4 hours through pretty much jungles, the tropics. So a little bit humid, but fairly decent, short shirts and a backpack, and off you go. But the guide intentionally walks extremely slowly, and this is because we're going up so quickly. They try and help you acclimate by actually doing the day treks a lot longer than they should. So this tested me a lot. The main reason it tested me was I'm competitive. I want to be first. I want to go. I don't like doing things slowly. I want to go. And the guide is constantly pole, like slowly. I'm like, yeah, okay, they're slow, and then they're going backwards, and it felt like we were going backwards. And so the first probably hour or 2 hours of hiking, you're kind of on an individual path, and you're kind of following the stream up, and pretty pictures and all that sort of stuff. That's where we saw the blue monkeys. And then about halfway through that hike, you actually the roads meet up with the porter roads. So the idea behind it is the porters carry their own stuff plus 20 kgs, maximum 20 kgs per porter. The chef doesn't carry anything besides his own pack, and the guide only carries his pack plus your first aid kits and all that sort of, and oxygen and stuff. So that's kind of how it works. So the 3 porters have their kind of personal stuff plus 20 kgs of stuff. And I believe there's two reasons for this. A, it's to stop any abuse. So giving a guy a 50 kg pack on top of his own pack would just be exploiting it. And then the other thing is just to create employment. So if you can only carry 20 kgs, you've got to hire more people to walk it up. So like for the bigger groups, and that was just me. So for the bigger groups, you have to have more guides. There's a guide to climb a ratio. so that you have to have that ratio has to be right for guides, just in case people can't make it and have to go back. Then they've got guides to go and do that. Oh, you're going down there. So yeah. So from there, so halfway up, you kind of catch up with all the guides and stuff, all the porters, should I say? And these porters are, it's very interesting, because you look at these guys and you look at the climbers. There was a Kenyan group with us and an Israeli group not with us. I was kind of on my own little tour, but these guys are in groups, and they kind of either catch up with you and go past you or slow down, or that you pass them or whatever. So you do see them, and you've got guys coming the other way, coming down the mountain as well. And it's interesting, because you cross these people, these avid hikers or climbers or whatever you want to call them, and they are in the shiniest gear known to man. They've got the latest poles, they've got the Columbia shirts, they've got the thermals, they've got the hoodies, they've got the camel packs with the straw in them out. Like, they've got everything. And then you look at the porters, and it's like a school backpack and they're in Vans or they're in sneakers, and they cruise past you like they're not carrying anything. And there is a story I'll get to it eventually, I think. And it's incredible to watch these guys, because they're just and they're balancing a 20 kg. They've got gas cylinders, pots, pans, everything, and they're balancing it on their head, plus they pack, and they just cruise, and they just miles stream past you like you're actually not even walking. So that was getting me frustrated, because I wanted to keep up with those guys and keep walking and get on with it type thing. And my guy is like, no, you got to go slowly, because it'll catch up to you and you'll have a problem. So I think that the first 3 days was very frustrating because of that, because we were going slowly, because we were being overtaken, not just by the porters, but there was other groups. As I said, there's a group of 21 Kenyans that came past us. And yeah, they trained and all that sort of stuff, and this is what they were there for, and they cruised past me, and I was, okay, let's go, come on. The guy would just not let me go. So yeah, that I think that out of all of it, that's probably what taught me most. Like, sometimes just slow down. It's not a race to the top. It's actually whether you get to the top or not. And I found it, you're walking along and you make small chat for a little bit, and then, eventually you get to a part where you're just quiet and you're just, walking along. And it's quite interesting. Immediately my mind goes to all the photos, like me at the top, at the summit and stuff like that. And I had to really consciously work hard, think about, like, hey, you might not get up there. And yes, I was probably telling myself that, but I don't think I believed it. I don't think I believed it. I think I was just like, listen, I will get to the top no matter what, and that was the plan, is to just keep going. I don't know why the camera keeps going up and down, but we'll crack on, because I'm 13 minutes and I'm not redoing this. So yeah, it was trying to manage those expectations of getting up to the mountain and doing all of that, as well as, trying to come to terms with, like, listen, if you don't make this, then, like, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. But in the back of my mind, it's like, I'm absolutely making this. There's no chance of me not. And the first day we got to camp, and it's little A-frames. I think there was 4 beds in each A-frame. I eventually had a Chinese climber come in. His name was Bill, like Bill Gates, as he said. First thing, what's Wi-Fi? Because there's Wi-Fi on the mountain, but you're paying, I think it was 30 or 40,000 shillings to get access to the Wi-Fi. And eventually I found out that the top one actually didn't even have Wi-Fi, but they've got a cable that runs all the way up the mountain, right next to the path, all the way up the mountain, actually to the summit. So I just disconnected. I just said, no, I'm not going to do that. I live in the moment a little bit. And yeah, so we got to the first camp, and my Lord, they feed you. And you know, you're thinking, and they tell you, listen, you need to eat. You need to make sure you're eating properly, and you need to make sure you're drinking properly, because that will help with the altitude sickness. So I was spending a lot of time eating and drinking, and eating and drinking, eating and drinking. And they serve you full meals. It's not like rations or anything like that. You know, you're having a full blown meal every single time, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I think they try and pump like 5,000 calories into you or something each day. And you're physically forcing yourself to eat to make sure. And in my mind, I'm also like, okay, well, I need to make sure I'm carved up so that, you know, I'm pushing. And then the next day, so the day 2, you walk from Mandara to Horombo. And on all the signs it says 11 Ks. So I'm like, okay, 11 Ks, and I had my watch, so I start, and we cracked on, and you know, walking, and pole, and groups are going past us, and I'm getting angry, and then we come to a little stop, and he's like, okay, we're going to rest here, we're just over halfway, and I look at my watch, and we've done 9 Ks, and I'm like, how are we, you know, if we're halfway, you know, why are we at 9 Ks? And I got really frustrated, because in my mind I'd built that 11 Ks in my head as listen, this is what we're going to do, and we were nowhere near where, and we ended up, I think the total for that trip was 15 Ks, but I got extremely frustrated because in my head I'd set that goal at 11 Ks. Generally I'll put an extra K on there, 12 Ks. But I'd set that in my mind as the goal, and like I'd planned my water, and I'd drinking, you know. So we got to 9 Ks, I only had like half a liter of water, you know, I'd eaten all my snacks and stuff, and it really griped me that, you know, it wasn't 9 or 11 Ks where it said on the board, you know, it was 15. And I don't know why, but I turned around to the guide and said, listen dude, like, I don't care, tell me it's 20 Ks, like tell me a little bit over then under, because I got extremely frustrated with it. And it wasn't because I was tired or anything like that, it was just because I'd set it in my head like, hey, we've got 11 Ks to go, let's just crack it out and bang it out. And it ended up being a lot more than, well, not a lot more, but it ended up being more than that, and it pissed me off. So I kind of had a word with my guide and said, listen, I don't mind, whatever it is, but don't tell me it's under and then end up going well over. So that was the only thing that really pissed me off on the second day. On the third day, you go from Horombo to Kibo. The accommodation at Horombo was pretty much the same, a little bit different in terms of the layout. It wasn't these small little A-frames, it was bigger A-frames and more like a dormitory, more multiple, like the ones down at the Mandara were like individual little huts, and then now this one is a number of huts kind of all attached, so you had different rooms on the main building. And yeah, so a little bit different in terms of accommodation, but same thing. You got, and the other thing is the way there's no showers up there, so literally you get a tiny little basin of warm water, and you take a flannel or a face cloth and you kind of wash, you do a bucket shower type thing. So a little bit different, especially after walking all day. You kind of want a proper shower and stuff, but you don't get one. You get one of these little buckets that could bring you a little piece of soap, and you gather yourself and you clean yourself, and then okay, next job. And then you get fed again. So then on the third day it's a shorter hike. So the first day you do 4 hours, second day you do 67 hours or whatever it is, maybe even 8. And then the third day you do another short one, so 4 to 6 hours, just to give you time, because you actually summit that night. So on the third day you do your walk, and we went from Horombo to Kibo. Kibo is your base camp. and you do that walk, and as soon as you get in, you get fed, and you get told go and lie down and rest and stuff like that. That I had no issues with the third day. It was fairly simple, fairly easy. Then went to bed, had like an afternoon rest. They wake you up around about 5:30, feed you again, and then they say, okay, like rest, we'll come and wake you up at 11 o'clock that night. So rested fine the first time, like the afternoon rest was fine, and then Cuppa woke me up at about 5, more food at 5:30, and then like again full meals, not half little meals, big meals, and then they said okay, wrapped up. And they do sorry, I forgot to mention, they do oxygen tests with the little finger pinch. So they do your O2, so your oxygen in your blood and your blood pressure, and then you have a little quiz or a little survey to fill out. How do you feel out of 10? Are you nauseous? Do you have a headache? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this? And you sign it all off. First day, no issues. Second day, I think I had a headache. Third day, I had a headache, but everything else was still good. I will say that on the first day, my ankle seized up with a little bit of, well, not a little bit of gout, with gout. Gout, if you don't know, gout is like little uric acid crystals that form up around joints. So extremely painful, well, very painful. You can kind of manage it with ibuprofen, but diclofenac, or there's another drug that you can take that will actually treat it, but I didn't have any, and I'd only taken a limited amount of ibuprofen up the mountain. So was struggling with that a little bit. But again, in my mind, I was not going to fail. So, yes, it was sore, but crack on, let's go. So they came in on the third night, so the summit night. Check my oxygen, check my blood pressure, but they also asked, how are you feeling? And I was like, I've got a headache, I've got a little bit of nausea, and I am taking ibuprofen for my ankle, just FYI. They're like, okay, that's fine, good to know. After dinner, I went to bed, and I think I got up at about 10. We were meant to wake up at 11, food, and then start hiking at about 12, start going up the mountain at 12. But I was up at 10 and feeling very nauseous. Like, if I lay down on my bed, I would start getting very, very sick. So eventually I got up out of bed, got dressed, got ready for the summit, and kind of went outside and just sat in the fresh air, and that kind of helped a bit. When the guys eventually came in, I kind of explained to them, I said, listen, I'm fairly nauseous, headache, I have taken my ibuprofen for my ankle and stuff like that. They said, listen, okay. So they checked my blood, they checked my O2, my oxygen, that was still fine. And they said, listen, it's up to you, but we feel like you're fairly good to go with, to crack on. So, okay, let's go. And so we left. I think we left even earlier. We left at about 11:30. And I realize now after the fact why they do it at night. But I'll get to that. So we start like you're into the darkness. You've got your little headlight on, and pretty much you're looking at his feet, looking at the guide's feet, and you're trudging up this hill. And I would say the first 3 hours, 4 hours, I was okay. It was tough, it was steep, but what they do is they snake it, so they zigzag up and down the face, but you can't see anything. Even if you look up and stuff like that, all you see is just blackness above you. And you just go, you just follow but I would say the last hour, 2 hours, not to the summit, just to the rim. So it is a crater, so there's a rim around it. So again, this is after the fact and after I actually looked into it, because I didn't do any research going into it. You get to the summit, you get to the top of the rim, and then you go around the rim. I think it's called Gillian's Point. You get to Gillian's Point, you rest there, and then you walk around to the actual sign. And I just, in that last couple of hours, I really struggled. My legs were just empty. My mind was still good. I was still happy to keep going and walking and stuff like that, but my legs were just empty. There was just no power in them. So you'd walk a couple of steps and I'd have to rest, and like, because you walk with two guides on the way up. You've got one guy in front of you, one guy behind you. Because it's so steep, I think that guy is just a catch, if you slip or something like that. So, we got, I would think probably about an hour and a half from that rim summit, from Gillian's Point. And I could not keep going. Or I'd walk 4 or 5 steps and my legs would just be empty, like just jelly legs. And again, I feel like I'm blaming the guide a little bit, but what he was doing, and the way I've kind of explained it in my head, is I'm a diesel engine. I can go at a constant speed, but I can go for days. Like, that's how I run. I just trudge along and at a constant speed, and I'll be fine. But the issue that I was having is he would walk 4 or 5 steps, stop, walk 5 or 7 steps, stop, 10 steps, stop, and like just pull up a little bit. And because you're following him so closely, every time he stops, you stop, and then you have to kind of get that momentum going again. And it absolutely killed me. And as I say, I'm a diesel engine, constant and true, and just keep going. And he just kept stopping, stop, and it just emptied me. And again, mentally, I was fine. Like, it was still good. There was no thought of me kind of quitting or not doing it. But it was my body that was kind of dead. That was my issue. And listen, I was drinking water, and I had my breakfast and all that sort of stuff. But there was stages where, like, we'd stop for a break, and I would sit down, and I would literally pass out. I'd fall asleep like that. And the guy would, okay, let's go, and we'll get up and we'll start going again. That's a little stop. Oh, it killed me. That stop starting. I think had we just gone at a little more of a constant rate, I think I would have been okay. And then, so yeah, by the time, I think it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, by the time we had actually summited the rim, so I got to Gillian's Point. And when we got up there, I just pretty much lay flat on my back and kind of fell asleep. And it's kind of all I asked for. I wanted like a little, like a 30-minute nap, and I think I would have been fine. But they were like, no, that's not wise. So they gave me sweet tea, and by this stage, the nausea was nearly unbearable, and I eventually threw up. Just kind of, as we got up and started going again, just with that in my stomach, and I just did. So I did throw up, and then I felt a lot better after that, but then I was feeling very drained. And I felt, again, like no energy, a little bit of a dizziness. So we would only manage like 40 or 50 meters of walking, and then I'd have to kind of stop and wait for the whirlybird to come back and pick me up, and I'd carry on going. So it takes an hour and a half to go from Gillian's Point, normal walking speed, Gillian's Point to the sign. And it takes normally about an hour and a half to walk. I think it took us about 3 hours, just because I would only manage 20-30 meters, and I'd have to stop, gather myself, and redo it. So I found that extremely difficult. It just felt like my body was betraying me. Like the head was like, hey, come on, let's go. Like, and I'd try and push myself to that limit, and lightheaded, okay, just settle, and then I'd crack on again. And by this stage, they'd taken my day pack off me, because I'd done the whole to the summit or to the rim, I'd done it with my backpack, my day pack, so I had all my water and bits and pieces in it. By the time we got to the rim, the guy was like, "Listen, give me your pack." So he took my pack, and I was just kind of trudging and dealing with my own little trying to deal with my little inner bitch, but I think it got the better of me. But eventually, we got round to it. Took all the photos, very pretty. We were very lucky with weather. We didn't get rained on once when we were actually walking. There was rain on the first night when we got to the camp at the bottom of the hill. But we had already set up camp and we were all good. So, just sat inside, teas and coffees and stuff. And then, the climb up, crystal clear, stars in the sky, it was beautiful. And then when we got to the top, sunshine, hence I got extremely sunburnt, as you saw in all those photos. I think they said it was like -10 at the top of the hill, or top of the mountain. But the sun is still shining and it's still got power, so totally forgot to put sun cream on. Didn't wear a cap, was wearing a beanie, so I got absolutely cooked. I'm glad I kind of had the beard because that kept me a little bit warm as well. Yeah, so you take all the photos, and it's quite interesting because like on the way back from the sign, there's this massive group of, I don't know where they were from, but obviously foreigners, European foreigners, and just all the gear, absolutely kitted out. Come trudging along, and there's me, a camo jacket for my hunting in the States and stuff like that. It was just quite funny, and they were all fresh as daisies, and there I am struggling with life. And then so you do all of that, you take the photos. Beautiful up there, a lot of glaciers, big ice, kind of mounds of ice on all sides pretty much. They did say a lot of the snow had melted. We didn't actually walk on much because most of the pathways were clear, but there's kind of ice on either side of you as you're going up because it's not really traveled as much. You walk on those paths. And then so walk from there, we headed back to Gillian's Point because we had to start the descent. And no one tells you about the descent. Everyone's like, I got to Kilis, got up the mountain and stuff like that. And now you actually have to go down. You have to get back to where you started. So I was standing on top of Gillian's Point, and the first probably about 250 meter drop is just big boulder, rocky, kind of volcanic-y rock stuff. So that's big loose rocks, and you kind of having to watch where you step. And this is when my gout really started to hurt, because that pressure of stepping down onto it, onto these rocks and stuff like that, and the flex in the ankle, that was tender. And then from there you go down again, and now you're on this like shale, so the stones are probably about that size, but it's ankle deep little rocks, and you just step and you slide, and you step and you slide, so you're like surfing down this. And it's fun for the first K and then the next 4 Ks you're still doing it, and your ankles are sore, your knees are sore, you're getting pissy. And it's awful because you can actually see base camp, and that's where you need to be, but you've still got this massive downhill across the plain and then all the way across, and it's just that, I would say that was the harder test, is actually doing that walk, because you're trudging. You've been up since, I was up from 10 o'clock the night before, and now it's about 9 o'clock in the morning. So you've already been up for 10-12 hours. You've trudged up the mountain, now you're trying to trudge down, and it's a tough one. And again, like, the body's empty, and because threw up, I'd lost a lot of my water, and I wasn't really in the mood to keep drinking after that. So like dehydration started to set in, and just empty, not really much food in the system, and it was bad. The whole experience, like that last summit push. So that last hour from on the face to the room, that was extremely tough. Then the walk around to the sign and back, that was tough. And then now you have this descent after the euphoria of reaching the summit. Now you have to go and trudge back down the mountain. You know, everyone, as I say, everyone talks about getting up there. No one talks about getting down. But yeah, so eventually I think I bumbled into camp around about, I want to say about 1 o'clock. Finally got into camp. It must have been 12. No, it must have been 1. Finally got into camp, and they had a meal there, and like I couldn't really stomach much. But I did try and eat. I did try and get some food into me and stuff like that. And you know, I was in the middle of taking off my snow pants and fell asleep, out cold. So Daniel, the waiter / porter, he came in just after I got back and saw I was passed out. So he got my sleeping bag out and threw it over me. And yeah, literally. And they say, okay, you've got an hour's break. You get an hour's sleep, and then we've got to get back down to Horombo, which is the camp that you sleep on the second night. So from there, now got another 4-hour hike. Oh no, it was probably 2.5, maybe. Yeah, about 2.5 from base camp to the camp that you actually spend the last night at. So, you know, you're bucketed, absolutely shattered, and you know, old Daniel came in, oh, you know, Andy, wake up, like, let's go. And you're like, 5 more minutes. And they just, nope, let's go. And again, the porters and the guides are up at it, and let's go, and you know, you're off. So yeah, and then from there you do that. I think it's about 2 hours, because you're going downhill. It's 4 hours on the way up, 2 hours on the way back down. And we left about 2, 3, 4, and got there about 4, 5 o'clock maybe. But you're shattered. You're absolutely bust. Once you get down to a room where they actually give you more food, they give you food, and I just said, listen, give me meat and some dry stuff, and I'll be fine. Again, an elaborate meal. I think we had chicken wraps and veggie medleys and all sorts of stuff there, and fruit, and it's just like, so I ate a little bit, and good glug of water. I ended up doing a couple of electrolytes, so I have electrolyte mixes, so mixed all that up and tried to force myself to drink a whole heap. So I got, probably that night I probably did 2 liters of water, so a liter of electrolytes and a liter of water. And then yeah, pretty much the little bucket shower came in, I showered, and I was probably in bed by about 7. And I don't think I've ever slept that well in my life. I was in another dimension when I hit that hay, and when I woke up, I actually felt really good. You know, I was energized. Legs were sore, calves were sore, but other than that, I was chuffed. I actually enjoyed that, because the hard part was out the way and done, and this was now just the easy spot, or I think it was a 6-hour hike out from Horombo back to the gate. But I don't know, it was all good. Like, I managed it, I ticked the box, I done it. And I enjoyed that reflection moment, I would say, more than when I was up there and experiencing it in real time. So yeah, and then from there you start heading down and you do the long hike out, and then once you get to the bottom, they take you, and they've got a little mabru place down the bottom there, where they've got the curios. They cook you lunch, one more meal, and yeah, so and that's where I bought a cap and I bought a medal, I bought a little painting, I bought them all a drink, like a beer. Well, the guys who drank, I got a beer, and the guys who didn't drink, I got Cokes. But it's always the case. Like, you go to these places and they call them, I call them Mzungu prices, so white person prices. So they see the foreigner, they see the tourist, and they think, okay, now we double the price. So they are trying to charge for a beer, I think about 6,000 shillings. And I said, listen, I'm not paying 6,000 shillings, because I know I've been in Arusha where I went to the supermarket and bought them for, I think it was 1,000, 2,000 shillings. So they're trying to charge $3 instead of $1, so eventually I was like, no. And then they're like, no, it's fine. So they eventually gave it to me for local prices, which was quite nice. And yeah, we had a couple of beers and then kind of headed on home. Some of the things that I learned, so kind of on reflection of the whole thing. Don't underestimate it. Don't think that your summit day is going to be the same as the first 3 days you had. The summit day is some of the hardest things you'll do. And I think I kind of mentioned it a little bit, where they do it at night on purpose. They do it on night because you can't look up and see where you're going, because mentally that would kind of break you and be like, we're not going up, we're just staying in the same place. So they do it at night because you can't really see much else but the footprints in front of you, so you just follow those. So tactically they do it during the night. There was one guy that when we got to base camp, he was an avid hiker, and he actually felt good and still good from the morning hike. So he said, listen, let's just crack on and get up there. So he actually did from Horombo all the way back up the mountain, then all the way back down to Kibo, and then went down the next day. So listen, fair on him. And old Bill Gates, the Chinese guy, he tried it, and the guy was like, no, my boy, you're tired, you need to go and sleep and rest, and we'll do it tomorrow. So he summited. He pretty much followed the same path as me, and so him and I pretty much got to the summit at the same time. But yeah, that tactic of doing it at night, so that you all you're doing is you're focusing on the footsteps in front of you, I think is a clever plan by them, and I think there's a lot more success rate because of that. Because on the way down, you look up, you kind of turn around at the end of it, and you look up, and you're like, yeah, that would have just been that mental barrier that would have been hard to kind of overcome. And then some of the things I learned, like the poly thing, the slowly, I think it did teach me a lot of patience. It did teach me just to slow down. Even on this whole trip, I've gone fairly quickly. I do big drives. I do 6 to 8 hour drives and stuff like that. And sometimes I'm so focused on the drive and getting to our next destination, I actually don't focus and live in the moment and live in the experience. And like, hey, I like this spot, I'm going to spend another night here. I'm like, well, I've got to get there. So I think the patience stuff really kind of not helped me, but a reminder that sometimes you just got to slow down. It's not, you're not racing. Life is not you racing everyone else. Life is the way you live it, and it's your own race, and you run it at your own pace. And if you want to get somewhere, sometimes you have to go slow. You have to prepare where you're going and what you're doing to actually get where you want to go. So that was a big thing. So I'm going to cheat and go back to my book. The other thing that I would say, do it. Challenge yourself. At the end of the day, definitely train. I would say, don't just go, don't do it on a whim. I didn't do any research. I didn't really know what to expect. Everyone's like, oh, don't underestimate it. I did the first 3 days. I was like, yeah, it's easy. And then summit day, and it slapped me in the face. But do it, try it, challenge yourself. I talk about this, do this 1% in the world, like be special, be unique. I've climbed Kilis now, and I'm 0.005 of the population of the world, or percentage of the world that's actually done it. So that's cool. You're unique. You're in a very small bracket and window. And listen, I'm not going to take anything away from, like, there's a lot of people who do it properly. They take all their rations, they camp, they don't have porters, they do have a guide, because you have to have a guide, but they do it all themselves, and hats off to them. That's a whole different challenge. But again, I did it on the whim. I wanted to get up there and down there. I had guys carrying a lot of my stuff. All I carried was my day pack. There's guys cooking for me. There was guys, carrying all that food and stuff like that. And, I did it quickly because I'm on a time crunch. You can do it in 7 days, and that gives you a lot of time to acclimate all the way up. There's, I think, 6 or 7 different routes. And then, doing it, you will challenge yourself. You think, don't take music. Don't sit there with the earphones in and just be in the moment, listen to your body, have those conversations with yourself. I think I was lucky because I was by myself. I was just with a guide. So, there wasn't that general conversation. So I actually spent a lot of time thinking about stuff and, thinking about, the journey I'm on in life, as well as, the journey I was doing there. I kept jumping to the success, and I kept forgetting that there was still a lot of work to do in between that. And it's good to visualize that, but don't get too caught up on that, because some of the best parts in life is getting to where you want to go, rather than just where you want to go. So that do expect to get force fed. The food, hats off, the food was very, very good. Lots of veggies, lots of flavor, but just heaps of it. And, you end up eating half a meal, and MK used to come up and, what's wrong with the food? Like, no, nothing's wrong with the food. This is for 4 people. Like, no, you need your energy. Keep eating. I'm like, I can't. So I do think I actually put on weight going up the mountain, and I did. But they just want to make sure, like, their goal is to get you to the summit. So they know what to do, they know how to do it, and it's just you pushing yourself to actually get there. And it's mind over matter, and luckily I feel like I'm mentally strong. I think from a lot of the rugby and the psychology side of things, from what I did in Chicago, mentally I would say I'm fairly strong. Physically, I was out of shape, and I probably would have preferred to have been a little bit in better shape to do it, because I think that would have helped me. But you can do it. If you want to, you can, and it's pushing yourself and understanding, like, there is a limit to your body. There is going to be a cutoff switch, and your body has mechanisms to shut you down if it needs to. But also, don't just listen to that voice and say, well, I'm tired, I should really go back, or I'm tired, I should quit. Because in my mind, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I always knew I was going to get up there. I think you would have to have carried me off the mountain. I would have had to collapse on that mountain for me not to get there. And I think that just that mindset to start off with was a really good mindset to be like, okay, we're charging, we're going. And listen, I'm different from other people. Your body will tell you when it's done. But also, don't chicken out. Don't just quit when it first gets hard, because life is hard, and you've got to crack on with it when it is. That's my moment. The other thing is take time. Take time to actually process what you're doing and where you're at. Have a look around, like, especially especially on the longer walks when you start getting tired and you're just following the legs in front of you or the feet in front of you. Every now and then stop, turn around, and actually look how far you've come and what you've done so far. And that is, all these things are for life as well. Life's a journey and all that. But take a moment to really appreciate where you are and what you're doing and the beauty of it all, because it is stunning. It's stunning up there, especially when you get out of there. Like, there's like 4 or 5 different layers where there's like your forest kind of area. Then you go into like an arid where it's got like shrubs, and then it goes into proper like a deserty, alpine desert, I think they call it. And then you go up into the snowy parts. So there's definitely the different layers, and look back, see where you're at and see what you're doing and stuff like that, because it is pretty cool to have a look around. Some of the don'ts. As I say, don't do it on a whim. Plan it out, make sure you know what to expect, make sure you've done the training, make sure you have the gear. So do all that. Don't underestimate it. As I said, that was I would say not my biggest downfall, but that was a big thing. I took the first 3 days and thought, okay, this is going to be piss easy, and it wasn't. So don't do that. Don't underestimate it. And just because it's easy on the first 3 days, don't expect that summit day to be easy, because that is a big challenge. Don't compete with anyone. As I said, it was a big challenge for me is not to compete with all those people walking past me and force it, because again, the guides want you to succeed, and they know how to do it, and they know the pace they set. Like, he had pretty much, we were down to like, I think it was between 23 to 25 minutes per K is what, and all of the Ks were nearly exactly that. So 2 minutes difference between all of them. It was incredible. He just set that pace and he just kept going. Don't get internet and don't get music. So don't sit there on your earphones and walk with music and stuff like that. Live in the moment. Live with what you're doing and be in the moment. You can take all the photos you want, to take all the videos you want, and afterwards then you post that stuff. You don't need to do it on the mountain. Just be in the moment, live in the presence, and enjoy it. Don't expect the Ritz. These camps that or the huts that we stayed in are very basic. There's no real rhyme or reason to how they allocate them to people. There's one day, like the first day I was with Bill, the Chinese climber. The next day I was with a Korean climber woman and a Tanzanian guy who was coming down the mountain. The next night, third night, I got my own actual room, which was quite nice. But toilets are very basic. A lot of, like the top one, keyboard did not have a sit-down toilet. There was only squats. And then I think the other two huts that we had were only had one sit-down toilet. So don't expect the Ritz. Make sure you take toilet paper. And you are going to be drinking stream water. So once you get further up the mountain, they don't allow water bottles, plastic water bottles or plastic bottled water up there. So if you are going to take your own water, just be warned that you are going to be carrying it yourself probably. If you don't, then you'll get stream water, so that will potentially give you an upset stomach, so just be warned about that. I've got it written there. Your beauty sleep is your concern. You're sharing with other people, some people coming down the mountain, some people still going up the mountain. So, being in these mixed lodges and stuff like that, mixed huts, there's guys that come in and make noise. So you need to just, what are you doing? I don't know what's going on here. Stop. Yeah, so I don't know why she's gone crazy now, right at the end. So yeah, just be warned that, you know, there's gonna be people coming in and out of your hut, and just make sure that you motor protection. Please press the trigger twice to listen. Okay, stop. Oh, what the hell's going on now? Don't do this right at the end. Yeah, so at the end of it, you know, just be warned. Like, it is tough, and it is an experience and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, you can do it. You can always do it. This has gone pear-shaped now. Right at the end, of course it did. But yeah, no, in general, overall, like, I love the experience. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I took the leap and managed to get up there. And I'm glad I succeeded. But as I say, I would highly recommend not doing it on the whim. Make sure you practice, make sure you train, and then hopefully from there, and then you can actually really enjoy it a lot more than what I did. Because yeah, you're not feeling crap. But yeah, that is my Kilis on a whim. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's a bit long, and it's looking at me for the whole time, but people asked for it, so I shared it. Okay guys, we'll chat to you later. Bye.